All right, welcome to another lesson. This one is very fun. It's literally flashy. Do I need to add a flash warning? Not really. It's not really flashing. But it's really fun. We're going to use one of my favorite nodes style-wise, which is the dual mesh node. It gives you these really cool hexagon shapes. I'm also going to show you how to make these flicker animations, play with some volume, more looping. There's looping all over this course. But let's jump right into it. So of course, just like every time, we're going to go ahead and introduce a good old plane to this scene. And we're going to hop right into geometry nodes. So let's go ahead and introduce a new guy right here. And we're going to get a cylinder. So Shift-A, search CYL, cylinder. So we're going to do a couple things. We're going to go through this cylinder. So we do need to make sure that he is no caps, nothing on the caps, or fill type in this case. We're going to go ahead and get in a transform geometry because we want to rotate it. Now, technically, you could just hit RX90 and never worry about it again. I do like to be a purist in some cases because you never know what's going to happen. Sometimes doing that might confuse you later down the line if you're getting crazy with the nodes. In our case, we're going to do rotation X90. We're going to keep our radius at 1. We're going to keep our radius at 1, but we're going to put our depth at 10, which means our camera is going to go from -5 to the +5 once we get around to that. I'm going to hop into the wireframe view so we can kind of see what's going to happen next. So here on the vertices, I want to create a system where we are having square-looking faces like this, which I did that pretty good freehand. But in this case, I'm going to copy what I did in my original animation. And the goal is playing around with our faces until we get squares, because that is going to make everything look the way we want it to look. So we're going to go here, 24 on these and 28 on these guys. And we are going to get not really squares. Did I put my foot in my mouth? There we go. Those are squares. So 2445 gets you something very close to squares. And then what we're going to do now is get in our dual mesh node. So DUAL, dual mesh. And you'll notice nothing actually really happened. And that's because, and I've just learned this from experience, you need triangles, not square. So you need triangular faces instead of square faces, which is easy because all we need to do is add a triangulate. Here we go. Triangulate node, which is going to basically slice our squares in half and create triangles that the dual mesh then knows what to do with. There we go. Now, and this is what I mean by it's my favorite one stylistically because it takes your faces and completely transforms them. And my cat wants to join us. Come on. You gonna jump up? Ah, she made it. She made it to the scene. So if you hear something odd on the mic, it's because she's touching it. All right, so we have our, our faces here, our dual mesh. Looks awesome. Now we're going to go ahead and separate the geometry. So SEP, Shift-A, search, separate geometry. We're going to put him right here. But instead of points, we're going to go ahead and start separating our faces. So let's give a little space down here, and we're going to get in the random value node. Random value. We're going to go here to Boolean to keep it as simple as possible. Just one of these guys and put it right there into selection. And then just go ahead and delete however many faces you want. And of course, this is geometry nodes. You can go back and change it. You are not married to any decision that you make right now. So let's go. Let's pop out of wireframe view here. And now we have this, which is, not too cute. So we're going to go ahead and get in a mesh to curve right here. And now it's going to turn, it's going to make this, and then we get a good curve to mesh. Curve to mesh, which creates what I like to call like a procedural wireframe. It has its things that are annoying about it, but also I like that it's round. Otherwise, you can just throw a wireframe modifier on this, but I just don't like that they're triangular. I don't know. So let's go ahead and get a circle, a curved circle, and plug that into the profile curve, and then of course bring that radius down until we like it. We're going to do 0.02. There we go. Now we have this. So I want to teach you guys something that I have not shown yet in creating groups. If you are, especially if you're handing project files off to other collaborators, it is good to at least group your nodes so that they can go and tweak them. And so in this case, highlight everything here and hit Control J, and there we go. And you can hit the in panel here and say, hey, let's name it something. So you go to the node and name it. We'll call it wire. And then now he's got wire right there, and you can bring that label size pretty big, and then you can click on color and make it whatever color you want it to be. So now we have this ugly color. I just keep them kind of a gray, really, just so you can see it. So now we have this. Let's go ahead and get in a join geometry so we can start on the next thing. So JOIN, join geometry. And then we're going to go ahead and build out something very quick here. So let's go ahead and get an instance on points. Instance on points. We're just going to go ahead and get some spheres on these little corners. So right here, right before you see separate geometry, actually no, right at the separate geometry is where you want to start placing those points. So we'll plug that into points. And then we'll plug that into joint geometry, get an icosphere, and then plug mesh into instance. And then, of course, radius has to come down significantly. Bring up those subdivisions, and then bring that radius down some more. There we go. It's all right. It's fine. It's whatever. We now have this system here. And, of course, you can highlight those, hit Control J, boom. There we go. Now we have a group. And then now let's go ahead and create the cylinders in the middle that are going to have those lights that bounce around and glitch around and create that really cool effect. So we need to get a mesh line. And here's why we're getting a mesh line. I want to basically array a bunch of cylinders, or maybe you can even call them a torus, a bunch of toruses within here. So we need to find a way. We need something that has points so that we can array them. And that is going to be a line, right? So these mesh lines have a count of 10. So we know there are 10 points on this invisible line, and it being invisible is great because we can just instance stuff on it and we don't see the line. We just see what's instanced on it. And so in this case, we need to get another transform geometry. So transform geometry, put it there. And then we're going to rotate it, which not that way. Rotate it on the, yes, rotate it by 90 degrees on the X. And if we look at it over here, you'll see that line starts here and goes out that way. So we do need to change its, Z start location to, so I'm going to hit the tilde key and just go to the right so we can see it better. So you can see it's happening, that little orange thing there. So we need to change its Z location to just stay in the middle here. So around -4.4, right? Just, you can see it's here and here. I don't really care that it's not exactly from bound to bound. I just need to know it's in here. So now what we can do is get an instance on points. So, oops, instance. What if I just type in on? Here we go, instance on points. Should I do that from now on? Just type in on. That'll make it show up quicker. And now let's get in a curve circle. So CIRC, curve circle, and plug curve into instance. So now we have all of our circles that we can rotate on the X by 90 degrees, and then you can see them. So there they are. These are our little guys that we need to add some geometry to. So let's go ahead and add a curve to mesh. So CURVE to curve to mesh, put it here. And then let's go ahead and duplicate this curve circle and then plug that into profile curve and then bring that radius down, of course, till we get something reasonable. There we go. And so now you can just go ahead and scale them to however, you can make them look like this. You can make them look like that. I want them to just kind of hang out generally in this area, but I don't want to have like that big of a gap. So I just wanted to barely touch. We like that. So now we have created our whole system. We're done with the geometry nodes portion of this. I'm going to highlight these guys, hit Control J. And now if you handed this project off to someone, it is much easier for them to understand what the heck is going on. We're going to go to material preview. I'm going to hit that up here. Let's go ahead and add our materials here. So we're going to need two. We're going to need one metallic one, and we're just going to keep it, call it material. And we're going to get another one, make it the same amount of metallic, but down here in the emission, we'll just turn up the strength to maybe 10, and we'll give it a color for now. And let's go ahead and apply those materials. And we'll call this one. We'll call it flicker. And then let's go ahead and get in our set material nodes. There we go. Shift D, Shift D. There we go. And then let's go ahead and apply those. So metallic, metallic. Now we got that. We do need to get let's get a set shade smooth on everything. And then we're going to go ahead and get that flicker. There we go. Now it's there. I am remembering now we need to switch away from AGX in my color management. So camera, go from AGX to filmic, none to high contrast. There we go. Here we are. This is what we have built so far. It looks nice, it's fun, and we can go ahead and start instancing this. So I'm gonna hit Shift A, Mesh, Plane, and I'm gonna hit S5. Okay, and then now I'm just gonna go here to the flat view. I'm gonna highlight it, M, new collection, LOOP. There we go. He's here, and I'm gonna hit Shift A, collection instance loop. We've done this 100 times at this point. So we'll do that. I'm gonna hit Alt D, holding down Control, of course, to make sure it snaps to the grid. That's probably as many as I'm going to need. And then we can go ahead and delete that. All right, we've built this out. Let's go ahead and get our camera to fly through it. So, of course, hit that tilde key, go to the front, Shift A, camera. All right, now he is where he needs to be. We can go to the transform settings and see, yes, well, he's at 0. He needs to be at the -5 on the Y. -5. There we go. So we can go ahead and animate him. Let's go back to layout. Before we animate add the lighting, animate the materials, let's go ahead and just get this guy to move. So we're going to go hover over here, back to frame 0. And then right up here, we're going to click that keyframe and then go to the end and then type in 5, enter. And as you can see, just by that, we know it's going to be a seamless loop. We can click on this little camera icon and make it a little bit wider angle if we want to. And I can see in the material preview, is that going to look good? Probably so. All right, let's go ahead and animate this emission to make it look awesome. So make sure you click here, and then we're going to go here to shading, and we're going to delete those windows like we always do. At least I always do. And then we'll go to the Eevee view, which right now it cycles. So we're going to go here to Eevee. All right. So now we have this. Let me show you how to animate this in a flicker. So COL, color ramp, classic. We're going to get that noise texture and plug that factor into the color. So now we have all of this fun stuff going on. Let's say we'll make them blue for now. And then we're going to get a mapping. And then instead of a texture coordinate, we're going to get our object info node. And this guy, he's really smart. So OBJ, object info. Now we know this flicker material is only applied to these tubes, right? These essentially these toruses that you can kind of see are a little low poly, and we can fix that. We can go to geometry nodes and then find that guy, which he is right here. And you can bring that resolution up a little bit. So see that you can make triangles actually. You can make triangles with this, or you can just bring up that resolution just like that. Bit of an ADHD tangent there. But you can see now we have these tubes, but the material is applied only to those tubes, and this object info knows that. So he is going to go, okay, randomize that noise of these colors here onto that. So if we bring it in like this, you can see how it's applying it randomly to each instance. So if we go over to a 4D, which allows us to have this randomness seed value, we now are able to, let me bring that detail down, animate it just like that. Maybe we can bring our detail back. There we go. And what we can do is we can introduce new colors. I'm going to go from linear to constant, so I really don't have to worry about, you know, a mix of color. I don't really like that. So we can add this guy and make him green. Cool. Green is cool. There we go. Now we have a mix of these two colors going on, and now we can start. If I go on my go to my camera, it's going to animate just like that, and it's really cool. So now we can go ahead and start to make this scene just feel and look really good. So I'm going to go here to slot 1 here in this material, and we can bring that roughness up just a tiny bit. So now we have that. And then we'll go back to slot 2 and figure out this W here. I just want a couple lights here just to set up some compositing really quick. So I'm going to go to the world icon, bring it down to black, and let's turn on a couple compositing nodes so we can see them real time, because we have some glow, but there's more that we can do here. So here in the compositor, we're going to use nodes, and then I'm going to hit Shift A, and we're going to get a viewer node so that this all works in harmony here. And then I'm going to hold down Control and right click. Okay. So what I want to do is actually on this guy down here, I don't need to see the timeline. We're going to go to the 3D viewport. I'm going to hit 0 and then go to the render button. And then right here in this drop down, we're going to click always. And that is going to say always view the compositing nodes that are going to be here. So let's go ahead and get in a glare node. There we have that. And what I want to do, this glare node is awesome. I don't do a lot of compositing in my own work. This is kind of it. Most of my compositing is done in Photoshop or After Effects. But we're going to go ahead and bring those iterations up to 3 and then bring that color mod up. And then you can bring that fade. So see this? Color mod, fade. That's ridiculous. Fade to something like this, and then bring that mix down, which is like how much of that can we see. So now we get this really cool effect. And then let's get another glare node. And we're going to go from streaks to ghosts, and it sends these weird things around. So we can bring that, keep the iterations at 3. We can bring that color mod to just get a couple. So you can see it adds these really cool effects based on where you're looking. We're going to be right dead center. But as you can see, that is what it's going to do. And it's super, super cool. I absolutely love it. Bring our mix down so we don't see them quite as much. Cool. All right. Now we have that. So now we can kind of fly through. But see what those compositing effects do? They create these really cool looking things as we travel through. Now they're back. As we travel through, they're kind of existing in 3D, and they just look super, super awesome. All right. Let's head back to the shading tab and loop our noise texture that's making all these flickers. So we're going to get a timeline, go back to frame 0. And as we've done, hopefully, I'm not sure where you are in this course because I know you can kind of bounce around. But we are going to, as you may have done by now, we're going to loop the noise texture. So let's go ahead and get a duplicate, plug that mapping into it. Now we need to get a mix color. Make sure your W, make sure these are both exactly the same, but be sure that your W is starting at 0. And then we'll plug that here. All right, let's bring our factor to the left, and then make sure you are at frame 0. We're going to hit I on the W, I here. Now we're going to bring our timeline all the way to the end at 250. Give ourselves a W of 1. Add I. Bring this over. Hit I. And then on this one below, I. Go to the end. It's probably annoying hearing me say I. And then -1, I. All right. We need more of these guys. There we go. Now he's flicking around. And then let's go ahead and click always on that compositing. And then honestly, I would make my animation quicker. So where it says -1, we'll do -2. I'm gonna hit I. I'm going to go to the very end here and then do +2. All right, now let's go ahead and add some lighting around it because it's a little muddy. And that's just because there's not enough reflecting around. It doesn't look very cool yet. So here, In the world icon, we're going to go to volume and add a principled volume, and then bring that density down just a little bit. Give it, right now it's at 0.11. Let's go back to the beginning of our timeline, Shift A, and we're going to get a point light. And we're going to do something, something good with this. I don't know why I said something good with this. We're going to do something interesting with this. Right here, the point light settings, we're going to go here. First off, let's give it a nice blue to complement the blue that is already here. Bring your power up. What I don't like is how you can see, like, see how there's this aggressive, very small highlight. I want just very like gradient lighting. And it's creating a big gradient, but I don't like that the gradient comes down to this aggressive point. And you can fix that with the radius. So you're making the point light go from here to like here, where it's a big round thing. I mean, you could see that in the viewport, where it's getting bigger like that. And that creates a larger and much softer gradient. And then I'm going to hit Alt D in this case, and Alt creates a clone. So if I change one of them to red, they both change to red. And then you can bring your color brightness down a little bit. But now we have this much softer gradient lighting. And then we need to make sure, hold down, click on one point, hold down Shift, click on one, and then hold down Control, click on the camera, Control P for parent object. And now those lights are going to follow the camera. And now we have this really nice looking thing. We need to turn on our compositing. There we go. Look at this. Super cool. I would make my emission brighter, which we can do. So I'm going to click on this object here. I mean, these reflections are super nice. We're going to go to the material section here, go to emission and bring the emission strength up, and then center out our camera here. And there we go. That's the animation. We are all done. Pretty much all done. One more thing that I want to do is I'm going to go ahead and hit render. And I want to add one more thing that's really going to give some grit to this animation. So we're going to go back to compositing and add one more thing. So I'm going to bring this down because we don't need to see it. I'm going to highlight and hit G, and we're going to get a lens distortion node. And this is how you can get chromatic aberration. So very quickly, you can do like dispersion. And now you can get chromatic aberration. I don't want to do that though. What I want, and I'm going to go ahead to view, and we're going to zoom in so we can see this better. I want some noise. So I'm going to click on jitter. And now it adds noise, but it's not really going to stick. So our dispersion, make it 0.001 on the dispersion. And that's going to kind of make that noise stay. I think it's a bug. Maybe not. But now we have a little bit of noise in our render to give it some grit. So you can see up in there, it's not perfectly smooth gradients. We're introducing some noise. And I'm a big fan of the noise. I like a little bit of noise in my render. And then if we click render, render image, there we go. We're done. We created this whole scene and it looks awesome. That's it. There we go. We learned, flickering the lights. We learned some compositing, kind of what I would say like is multi-layer geometry nodes modeling, because this one specifically, I created the lesson so that you can have this entire thing built in one geometry nodes node tree, which is super, super valuable. So there you go. That's it. Onward to the next lesson.